Hey guys, it's good to talk to you again. I know it's been a few months since I've done my last proper YouTube project, but with my adventures in Bloodborne coming to an end recently, I thought this was as best of a time ever to create a new one, and I've decided to go for something I haven't really done before, and that's ranking Bloodborne bosses. So for my first one, I've decided to rank the bosses in the DLC, the old hunters, starting from the worst one, fifth one, going all the way to the best one. In this video I will try to explain some of my reasons why I think certain bosses are not as good as some other ones, and why I think some bosses are much better than the other ones. So I hope you will like it, and let's get this show on the road. On the fifth spot, as you could have guessed, we have no one else than the Living Failures, and as the name suggests, this is a living failure of the boss. Honestly, that's the best compliment I can give it, because it's such a badly designed boss. It's in the rank of Celestial Emissaries. To be honest, this one is maybe slightly better, at least it's a little bit more difficult, but that's about the only saving grace, and the fact the area does look quite nice. But in the terms of the design, this is pretty much an overcomplicated normal enemy with a little bit more HP, well, with a lot more HP. Takes about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 10 hits maybe maximum, I don't really know right now. And there's two types of them, there's the melee one and there's the arcane damage one. That's about the only thing I can say about the design. Like, you can still get hit, you can still die, of course. They deal quite a bit of damage if you are not paying attention, like you can notice me over here. But it's a boss which you will defeat, if not in the first attempt, then definitely within 5 attempts at the worst. The only good thing about this boss, I would say, is the transition phase, which happens at 60%, and afterwards it can happen at any point during the fight, where the boss actually uses an ability called Meteor Shower to rain down meteors upon you from the sky. The room turns very dark and it looks amazing, like it looks really good. It's like I said, it's the best thing about the whole boss. The ability itself is not so hard to avoid really, you can run around, it's fairly high chance you will just avoid the ability, or you can stand on the spot and use the shield, which absorbs a lot of the arcane damage. But yeah, it's not the most complex of abilities to deal with, but it looks very cool. And yeah, that's about it. I don't think I can say anything else about this boss. In terms of this design, everything about this boss, I could give it maybe 2 out of 10. Fourth one on the list is of course Lawrence, the first vicar. This boss and the boss that's on number 3 were very closely tied for me, but I went for this one on the 4th spot mainly due to the disappointing stage 2. It's not horrible, no, not at all, but just not as good as I thought it could be maybe. But overall, phase 1 of this boss is so cool, it's so dynamic, and the boss actually hurts like hell, so you have to be on top of your game to avoid most of his smashes. If you get grabbed and you are not full HP, you are dead. And one thing about this boss which I loved, it reminds me of Ifrit from Final Fantasy games. I'm not sure if anyone of you has played them, but very much looking like Ifrit, and it gives you such vibes of the old Final Fantasy games. It's so cool. But yeah, going back to this boss, phase 1 is full of different movesets. He can cleave you, he can grab you, he can smash you, he can punch his left fist in the ground and cause an explosion. It is also manageable to riposte him, which I accidentally have done 2 times on this attempt, which was so cool. And that was the grab attack. That was the grab attack I was talking about. I got hit by that quite a few times before I killed the boss, and let me tell you, it hurts. It hurts a lot. But let me just show you phase 2, which I didn't really like that much. And this here is phase 2. It starts on about 40% of the boss's HP, when he actually loses access to his legs, as you will be able to see right there. He actually starts following you around by crawling, leaving behind this huge fire trail every time he moves. The phase looks beautiful on the eye, I'm not going to lie. But in terms of design, I felt this boss is lacking something in stage to make it that much more challenging, or anywhere as challenging as phase 1 was. In phase 1, every time you make a mistake you are punished heavily, and the boss doesn't allow you more than 1 mistake. If you get hit by the grip, you are dead. If you get hit by the smash, it's going to be quite hard to recover. Whereas in phase 2 you can make quite a few mistakes like I was making, and the boss is still going to die. like I think I defeated this one the first time I got him into phase 2, which tells you all about this phase, which is a shame because phase 1 was amazing, and I just felt phase 2 was lacking either higher amount of damage taken or maybe another ability. But I'm not going to let that change my opinion on the boss. It's amazing, 7 out of 10 at least. On number 3 we have Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower, and this is going to sound funny, especially because I put this boss in front of the Lawrence, but I actually managed to defeat this one on my very first attempt. But that doesn't change the fact this is such a good boss. This is my type of boss in Souls games. It's hand to hand, you know, melee type of fight where you just go onto each other like a madman. There's no magic as far as I remember right now. There's no magic. It's just, you know, fight until the death, fast paced combat. The more aggressive you play, the more you are rewarded. This one is what I like in Souls. Aggressive play. I'm not a defensive player. I hate being defensive. I hate waiting around for the boss to do something so I can actually do like one hit then move away. This is just, you go for the throat most of the time, and it's such a good looking boss. There's not too much special behind it, you know, like there's no ability which in phase 1 which make you go wow, this is such a masterpiece of the design. But the fact is it all happens quite quickly. The boss goes after you go after her, and it just makes for a really nice fight. Phase 1 is really decent, but what makes this one so amazing is phase 2, and this is where phase 2 begins. She suddenly turns into an Abyss Watcher type of boss, at least for me. I'm not sure if anyone else had that feeling, but she gains a huge range on every one of her attacks, and they seem to also do fire damage. Well, not seem, they do fire damage as well. Just look at that. Looks very much like one of those Abyss Watchers attacks, and it's quite hard to avoid. Like, I'll be completely honest, I'm not certain how I avoided some of the attacks in this phase because I had no idea what was going on. I was just rolling left, right, trying my best to avoid it. Check that out. I actually got stabbed and thankfully she didn't deal as much damage as I expected, so I managed to survive. And then over here I managed to get a heal in. But yeah, like overall this is such a cool looking boss. Fast pace, you know, going for the throat, pure aggression from both the boss and the player. And one thing which I've noticed about this boss, it was mostly during stage 1, but if you play defensive, the boss seems to punish you. Like, she doesn't allow you to play defensively, you know, waiting around. I was trying for a moment or two to stay in the back, you know, try to wait for an opening, but she went for me. So as soon as I realized I should just go for the throat, you know, not wait around, I managed to defeat this boss, as you were able to see over there. So if I'm to give her a rating, easy 7 out of 10, but maybe even 8, maybe. On spot number 2, it is Ludwig the Accursed. Listen, between this and obviously everyone knows who the first one is now, between this and Orphan, of course, it was a hard decision. I'll be honest, it was a hard decision. I went for Orphan, of course, because of some other reasons, but this boss is almost just as good. Phase 2 is incredibly challenging and incredibly fun as well. Like, let me say first thing first. This boss has a charge attack which is the best charge attack in the game. Ebritas also has the one, you know, but that's the worst charge attack I've seen in a Souls games. This one is a lot easier to avoid, but don't get me wrong, this one is not good because it's easier to avoid, because this one is designed in a way so if the player learns the patterns, you can actually avoid it, which I love. He can still do it whenever he feels like it, so at one point throughout the fight he surprised me with that and I almost got hit, which I absolutely loved. And then the other abilities in phase 1, of course, include him just going for you, and similar to similar to Lady Maria, I've noticed this boss became a lot easier when I became a lot more aggressive. Like, if you go in, if you roll inside his body and start attacking like that, you can actually get a lot more damage in than you will if you just play defensively, you know, just wait out. But it's very enjoyable stage 1. And he also gained access to that spewing ability, which, as you were able to see, that was the only time I've seen it in stage 1. I did get hit by that quite a few times and I was still learning, but not as much. And then this stage begins. Stage 2 begins at this point over here, and it's so good. And this is stage 2. He actually becomes composed on this one, walking on his forelegs, I think it was, and using a huge ass blade. Look at that. Look at that green blade. It's so amazing looking. And he can punch a hit in this phase. Like, one thing about this phase I've noticed, it might not be noticeable in this attempt because I got hit often, but in most of my attempts in phase 2, I've noticed it's actually quite easy to avoid, but it deals a lot of damage. Like, if you stand close to him, you can actually get away from most of the attacks, and then if you break some parts of his body, you can actually get a riposte like that, which deals a lot of damage. And this is the hardest ability to avoid in this phase. I think I got hit. Let's have a look together. Yeah, I got hit on this one, almost died. I have only gotten to this part of the fight before killing him maybe a few times, so I didn't have enough time to practice and to master it, and I still don't really know how to avoid it, but doesn't change the fact it's amazing. And I'm guessing if I actually bothered to learn and to master it a bit more, maybe I would have thought it was a lot easier, but look at that. Look at the speed of his attacks even in stage 2. This explosion caught me unprepared quite a few times in the previous attempts where I quite easily died, you know. But on this one attempt, yeah, I got my lucky stars on. But yeah, Ludwig the Accursed is definitely not only the second best boss in the DLC, but it's also one of the best bosses in the whole of the game. I would say top 5 in the whole game. Easy, like easy 9 out of 10. And now we move on to the top one, to the number 1 spot, guys. Let's go. And there he is, the best boss of the whole DLC, Orphan of Kos. As many of you could have guessed, I suppose. And why is it the best boss? Because it's so amazingly challenging, and it makes it so rewarding to master his movements, to master his patterns even. A friend of mine told me as I was getting close to the kill that you can actually maybe even spot the attacks he's going to do by paying attention to his cries, which I'll be honest, I did not really do because it's kind of hard to do it. I've just focused on actually trying to master the abilities. I would say by the end of my pulls, I've gotten quite okay. Listen, I'm still gonna finish the attempt with only a couple of healing potions remaining because I'm not that good. But this is such a good design boss. Phase 1, I think phase 1 maybe is a little bit too slow. That's maybe like the only negative thing I have to say about this, because it does last a long while. He only goes to stage 2 on 50%, and then stage 2 feels a lot quicker for some reason. I don't know why. He still has the same amount of HP remaining, which is a bit weird. But yeah, phase 2, one of the things I liked the most about phase 2, which is very similar to Ludwig the Accursed, is the fact you cannot really master his patterns. You just need to react on the spot. And again, it's a fight similar to Lady Maria as well, and to Ludwig as well. To be honest, to most of the DLC bosses even, the more aggressive you are, the easier it becomes. If you're trying to be too defensive, avoiding all of his abilities, you know, even going for the parry, he's going to punish you heavily. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen my Twitch streams, I don't like parrying at all. So the reason you don't see me do parries is because I don't like them. So I just try to focus on out muscling the boss, you know, just beating him with my weapons. And phase 1 was just that, you know, just trying to overcome him, trying to master his patterns and deal as much damage as possible. And then he goes to stage 2, which is the stage we are looking at right now. That attack, when he jumps, then he charges, then he jumps, it's still something I don't really know how to avoid correctly. I still don't know how to avoid it. This one, well, to be honest, this one I'm not much better at as well. There's one ability in this phase which I think I've mastered. Is it this one? Yeah, it's that one, where he jumps to one side, he drops blood, then he jumps to the other side, he drops blood again. I was quite proud of how good I've done on that ability. You know, small things in life make you happy. And I was getting hit like a madman on this attempt, as you were able to see. Look at his weapons, by the way. I didn't even notice. I didn't even mention it in this video, but his weapon in phase 2 is his shrimp blade. Is one of the best looking weapons in the whole of the Soulsborne series. It's so fun and it's so cool looking. But the Orphan, of course, what to say, like seriously, what else to say? Such an amazingly designed boss. The only negative side to it, I would say, like I said like a moment ago, is the fact phase 1 is a little bit too slow for my liking. Phase 2, maybe the reason phase 2 feels so much faster is because most of his attacks are much more challenging, and as well he's got a lot more in his arsenal, so the phase goes just as slow, but you don't notice that because you're stuck having to deal with like 20 abilities almost, and all of them being so freaking deadly. But yeah, Orphan of course, most likely the top 3 bosses in the whole of the game for me. So GG from Software, GG, well designed boss, well designed. Maybe as I go further into the NG +1, +2 and whatnot, eventually I will master this boss so I don't have to use 20,000 healing potions like I did on this attempt. Just so you know, I had to go and farm for more healing potions midway through my stream because I ran out of them. So I came back with 120 and I defeated this boss. I think I had about like 1 more stack remaining. That tells you all about the difficulty of this boss, for me at least. I've heard this boss is also repostable. I've not succeeded in that. So maybe because I don't use parry, sure, but still. Anyway, that's it guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. This was my first attempt at actually ranking Souls bosses. So yeah, I don't know how well I did, but this was just a personal experience from somebody playing Bloodborne for the very first time, having never played it before. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one guys, and I'll see you around on the next video. Bye bye!